Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Cheng, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. And ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons, and science is now catching up. But this isn't even new science. The science of quantum physics is over 100 years old. So basically, what you do to another person, you are literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is What is a Soul with Karen Herrick. Karen, welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. Thank you. So, Karen, yes, you were introduced to me by a very good friend of mine, Sonia Rinaldi, and I'd like you to share your journey with our listeners.
Okay, well, I'm a social worker, and then I have a PhD in spiritual psychology. And I started out in an alcoholic family years ago, and my mother was Catholic and my father was Protestant, and so there was always this discrepancy about who was correct.
Okay.
And then I left my family, of course, went out into the world, got married, had 3 daughters, and then I got divorced and was remarried. And I married an alcoholic like my mother. And my whole thing in life was that I was never going to be like my mother. And so that's what I got myself in therapy and really started learning and developing my soul, which is what I believe our life story is all about, is developing your soul.
Yes.
And so as a result, I had 3 daughters, and then I have 8 grandchildren. And one of my youngest grandson, who was 6 at the time, was in the car and said, "Grandma, I don't like to talk about this very often, but I don't want you to die." And I could tell he was afraid.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, well, we've never talked about this, but isn't this nice he could bring this up?
Yes.
And so I said, well, usually you don't die till you're very, very old. And so I fibbed and I said I wasn't old enough to die, but that when I got old enough, my soul would come back and watch over him.
Right.
And so he said, "Grandma, what is a soul?"
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to answer this question, which I started out with, I don't know, he had been talking about wanting to go all around the world and see all these different things. And I said, well, when you die, I said, your spirit body leaves and you go up to a place called heaven, and then you can fly any place you want to, like we were talking about before. And then I can watch over you as a soul, and I'll be like a guardian angel.
Yes.
And so then he just started asking me questions about, well, Grandma, won't you be bored up there flying all around? Things like that. So I talk, we have our conversation in the book.
Yes.
And then I have a section for parents in the back if they want to, read that first.
Let me
But
show
I usually have
the book she's talking about is Grandma, What is a Soul? It's a children's book.
Right.
Yes.
And before that, I wrote another book about You're Not Finished Yet, and that was about therapy and the difference between a social drinker and an alcoholic, and then how you raise children in that environment, or whatever you decide to do, how to help you do that. And then spirituality was always a part of being an adult from an alcoholic or dysfunctional home. Not everybody chooses spirituality, but it's always best if you do, I think.
Well, when I think of spirituality, I think of the true essence of who we are. Is spirits. We're divine beings of light, having a temporary human experience that we chose to have. So I think of everything as being spiritual. I know that people, like to separate the material from the spiritual, but I think of it, it's all spiritual, because everything comes from spirit and goes back to spirit. So that's how I think of it. Yes.
It's a big circle.
Yes. Yes,
just like
yes,
nature. I always talk about, I do webinars on the internet for other therapists.
yes.
And so I talk about Jungian psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk about life and death, and we're just like nature. Leaves come out and then they die, and that's how we are.
It's the cycle of life. It's just
That's
a
right.
and life and it's just a life cycle, and life is eternal.
That's right.
There's truly no such thing as death. Yes. So that
Because
was
I believe that the soul is created, when we are created, the soul is placed in us, and so it's not born, it is just placed in us, and therefore it can never die.
right, right. The soul, I think of the soul as consciousness, which is
Yes.
eternal.
Yes.
It's eternal. So, and that's great that I have, my grandson now is 9. I only have one grandchild, and I have, I, since he was born, I've always talked to him about things like this. So this is great that you were able to have that, a mature conversation on his level,
That's
and
right.
write a book from that. That's amazing. That's wonderful. So
Well,
tell us,
he wasn't scared anymore.
yes.
After 20 minutes, he said, Grandma, I'd like to stop talking about this now. I said, okay, if you ever have any other questions, we can always start again. Okay.
Right, right. And that's the thing, relieving fear. Like what we're going through now with this fear of this coronavirus. It's the fear that's more of the pandemic than the virus itself.
That's
And
true.
and I even 2 weeks ago posted, I do video vlogs every now and then. And 2 weeks ago I posted it, it's more about the fear of this than the actual virus. And now it's become a pandemic and everything is shut down. I teach at a learning center. I teach piano lessons, and I teach 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds basic fundamental music and basic piano, and can't teach. I found out I was supposed to teach yesterday, and they closed. It's like for 2 weeks. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's just, it's totally, and it's the fear.
Yes, it
And
is.
I've always known with the map, I stopped watching news in 2001. So, but I
Okay.
know what's going on. I don't have to watch news to know what's going on in the world.
Right.
But partly the reason I stopped watching news is because I knew that the news was just creating more fear in this world than it doesn't show all the wonderful things that are happening. Just shows. I studied journalism in college, and the first thing we learn is if it bleeds, it leads. So the gorier the story, that's what they're going to lead with. It's like,
That's right.
so it's all about lowering our vibration when we're at a time in our humanity to raise our vibration. It's time for humanity to go to the next step. And that's why I started this show, Awakening. So we need to wake up to who we truly are as divine being of light, souls, spirit, whatever terminology we want to call it. But we know that aspect of who we are, which is who we are, never dies. It's
Right.
eternal. It's
Right.
eternal. So
And that
Sharon,
the greatest energy is love.
yes.
And that's what I told him, that we would always be connected because we have this energy of love. And of course, I believe in spiritualism, in that we can talk to spirits, and that our deceased relatives are there and they're helping us and they give us signs. And I just find that that's very rewarding to me because I don't feel alone.
Exactly. Well, yes, my son is in spirit. I launched this show 5 months or 6 months after he transitioned. And that's the word I use, transition. I don't use the word death. And I know that my son is with me. I know he's very proud of the show, and he's the co-host. So he's here with us right now. Yes, our loved ones are never gone, and they're always trying to let us know that they're with us, and they're giving us signs all the time. So and when you know that, it's a sense of peace. It gives you that sense of peace, that you know that they're not gone, they're still with you, and everything happens in perfect divine timing, for a perfect divine reason. even though we may not know that reason, and we don't need to know, long as we know that everything is happening in perfect divine timing for our highest good and for the highest good of the one, of the all, because we are all connected.
We really are. Yes.
Yes. So share more, because I know that you are working this book, which is great, which introduces the idea of what a soul is to children, which is a great thing, because a lot of times we feel like, oh, children won't understand, so we don't want to have that conversation with them. But it's so important to start as young as you can, because actually children are born with more of an awareness of the spiritual realm than we are. And what happens is that spiritual realm gets programmed out of them. It'd be great if a newborn baby could talk. Because I can imagine what that newborn baby would be saying. Well, I just left this heavenly realm to come here and help you guys.
It's true.
It's true. But so the infants can't tell us what they know. And I think infants know a lot more than we do. And we slowly but surely program that out of them. Yes.
And I believe imagination, Carl Jung talks a lot about imagination, and how important it is that if you can imagine it, you can do it.
Yes.
And some of the things that sometimes adults imagine, especially in the United States, people will say, oh, that's just your imagination running wild. Well, let it run wild.
Exactly.
And so a child could really understand the story that I've told, and because they can believe that you can fly up to heaven, and that's where your soul goes. And whatever you tell them, they will have the image that their imagination gives them.
Yes.
And it's so nice. I've heard from many people that have read the book, and children that have lost their grandparents or their parent, and that it's really been helpful to them to know that they're still there, and that they could talk to them, pray to them, but ask them anything, and see and realize that there's a small voice inside of us, and I like to call that your intuition. But maybe it is God talking to you through your soul. I have no idea. But it's your intuition, and you have to listen to that inner voice.
Yes.
And I think the more that we teach children that, and that you can imagine whatever you want, and we'll try to help you with it. Let's just see where your imagination takes you.
Right. And that's beautiful with children, because they're full of play and full of imagination, you know, and I was the same way, and I knew at a very young age to follow that inner voice. I like to call it my inner voice, because it was like everything I did as a child, it was just following my inner guidance, and it wasn't always in alignment with what my parents or the adults or society wanted me. Yeah, but it was just this inner knowing. And so I couldn't talk much about my inner knowing, because I was told children are to be seen and not heard.
Not heard, right.
So I couldn't talk about it, but it was a part of me that I couldn't ignore. And thankfully I didn't ignore. Yes. So it's good to encourage children to have that imagination. Many children do. I believe just like animals can see spirits, many children are capable of seeing spirits. Many children have imaginary friends. Those imaginary friends are not so imaginary, but we, like I said, we kind of program it out of them, that they are connected to the spirit realm, and there are spirits all around us, and it's all about the love. It's unconditional love. That's what it is.
Right. And it's so important. I listened to a webinar last night on energy, and it was very good. And then I was thinking, one of the things she didn't say was that love was the greatest energy. And then this morning I was thinking, well, that's why we have to love ourselves. And that's what people forget about, is you have to love yourself. And when you have that energy of self-love, you can handle just about anything.
Very true. Very true. Because it all comes from within. So if you don't have self-love, we truly can't have love for another, because it has to start from within you. You can't give what you don't have.
Right.
So you have to have that love within so you can share that love with everything. And I think, remember how I opened up the show saying that everything is energy and that energy is interconnected and interdependent? My name for that energy is love.
Yes.
So everything in essence is love. So,
And I think what we're going through right now with the pandemic, we're supposed to learn
yes.
that fear is false evidence appearing real. And I've been telling people, well, I like the Japanese model because what I've heard is that they were going to shut down their country for 6 weeks. So they did. And then after 2 weeks, they opened it back up again because they had contained the virus and it didn't spread.
Right.
And so I keep saying to people, that's what we're trying to do here. We're just containing something. And,
Mhm.
you know, I wear rubber gloves when I go out. I haven't seen anybody else wearing rubber gloves. And I think that would be smart. And I just stay 6 feet away from people if I have to go to the grocery store. And
Right.
just be calm. And what I always say, too, is all is well. Right now, I'm talking to you.
Yes.
We're having a wonderful conversation. I'm feeling good. It's a beautiful day. And
Yes.
all is really well. And everybody keeps saying, but what if? And what if? And well, Alcoholics Anonymous says 1 day at a time.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's 1 hour at a time.
One moment. It's really
Yes.
truly one moment. People say 1 day at a time. I always say it's one moment at a time. And everything I believe in spiritually is backed up by science. Science has proven when you focus on something, you bring it closer to you. When you focus on what you want, you can actually, with your mind, prevent getting ill. It's mind over matter, and this is proven scientifically.
It is.
It's our mind. We are much more powerful because we are not just human. We have a body, but we are not our body, just like we have a car. I think of my body as a vehicle for getting around in this dimension. But I am much more powerful than my body. Plus, the body has the ability to heal itself naturally. So there's so much that we limit ourselves by our thoughts. So I go out. I mean, I didn't go, yesterday was the only day I didn't go out. I go out, I don't worry about it at all because I know that my mind is more powerful than any virus. So I truly know this. And when you know this, it doesn't bother you, it doesn't fear. You have no fear at all. But this is an awakening for the masses.
It is.
Understand what's actually happening in this world is that, this is more of a fear pandemic than a virus pandemic, because it is something that can be contained. It is something just like the flu attacks the elderly and the people with lower immune system. The same thing is happening with this particular virus. Maybe the symptoms are worse. I'm not saying it's the same virus as the flu, but what I'm saying is the effects on the population is the same, because most people that even contract this virus, they get better. They heal. Because their body can fight it off. They're strong. Their immune system is strong enough to fight it off like any other virus. So what we're going through is I was just like shocked to find out, wait a second, I can't even find a roll of toilet paper. Thankfully I have toilet paper in the house.
I know.
But I can't find toilet paper. I mean, to me, what we're going through now is a wake-up call to the masses. Like, wait a second, wake up. What is really going on and why? Ask ourselves these questions, because if we compare this to other viruses, it seems like there's a new virus that comes down the pike every other year or so. And why are we treating this particular one differently? So it's just, these are questions I ask people to ask. And ask them more so an internal asking than, some people are just, they're just married to the mainstream news. And
they are.
Yeah, and it just keeps them in a state of fear and panic. And fear and panic and worry has never solved anything. No. So and all it does is lower your vibration. It lowers your immune system. When you're in a state of fear, you're actually more You can catch the virus easier if you're in a state of fear versus if you're not in a state of fear. So I keep hoping, I see that things are changing. Our world is changing, and it actually is changing for the better, because there has to be a breakdown of the old for there to be a rebirth.
That's what our political problems are showing us, I think.
Yes.
We're seeing what doesn't work. And when you talk about fear, I'd like to talk a little bit about the vagus nerve. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I have a third book for adults that's called The Psychology of the Soul and the Paranormal. And I started studying the vagus nerve, which is your 10th and longest nerve in your body. Okay. And Darwin founded it in the 1700s, or 1780, I think. But it comes in at the top of your head. It goes around, it goes down your neck. It touches your amygdala, which is fight or flight or frozen.
Okay.
And then it goes around and goes into your heart and then down into your stomach. So when sometimes they say the stomach is the second brain,
yes,
it's because the stomach triggers fear. It tells your brain danger, danger, and your heart rate goes up.
Right.
But that vagus nerve, if you know about it, I found that I started studying it because they were talking about it with people with panic or anxiety.
Okay.
And so if they could understand that they trigger their own panic, and that they have this nerve, that it is their job to keep the nerve calm.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, take a little boy, there's a Freudian case where he was sitting on his father's lap. He's between 3 and 4 years of age, and his father is sexually fondling him, and he said, "Where's mommy? And why is this happening to me? And why is daddy doing this? And why am I alone?" And so fight or flight, he can't run away. He can't fight his father. So he freezes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about a lot of what people have frozen in their cells.
Right.
And then another thing happens. So all those feelings about, he's angry at dad and everything goes into him.
Right.
And then a cat walks in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And he displaces all this anger and rage at cats.
Right.
So then he comes into my office at 45 and he says, "Well, I'm afraid of cats, but I don't have any memory of a cat ever hurting me. And so we have to figure out why I'm afraid." Because when he sees a cat, his stomach tells his brain danger, danger, and his heart rate goes up, and he's afraid.
Right.
So whatever people are living with now, their stomach is being triggered by whatever fear they have.
Exactly.
And what they need to realize is all is well at this moment. And I always think, what can I do now? What can I do? Well, I'm not supposed to go out. I'm not supposed to, meet with people. Although I am seeing people on the phone, and they are coming in, and we're staying 6 feet away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do? So this weekend, I'm going to paint my deck.
Okay.
Because it takes hours, right?
Yes.
And it'll take 2 days because I'll put 2 coats on it, and then I'll go online and I'll talk to somebody, or I'll call somebody, or maybe one of my friends will come over, and but what can I do? I can paint my deck.
Right. You can find something productive to do also. But right, when you were talking about that nerve, I had not heard of that nerve, but one of the things, I don't know if you ever heard of heart math.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Heart math has shown with much scientific evidence that our heart is much more intelligent than our brain. And what we want to do is kind of understand that the heart is, so what we're feeling in the heart is more intelligent than the brain, but we want to have that heart and brain coherence where they're in alignment. And for me, the best way to get my heart and brain in alignment is meditation, deep breathing exercise, just quieting the mind and listening to that inner voice. Because a lot of times we all have that inner voice, but a lot of times we let our mind say, "Oh no, you can't do that." If I 5 years ago, when Spirit was telling me to start my show, which I had no idea how to launch an internet radio show at the time,
right?
And it was in the middle of the night when I got this directive from Spirit. If I had listened, my mind would say, "Hey, go back to bed. You don't know." Yeah, but I didn't. I followed my inner guidance.
It's beautiful.
So, yes. So if we can learn to quiet that mind, because it's the heart, what we're feeling in our heart should be we should place more attention on what we're feeling in our heart than what our mind is telling us, and try to quiet that mind. And whatever if people like to do yoga, if exercising, if anything gets you in the zone of
Yes.
quieting the mind and just being present. Just being present. And like you said, there's no danger in this now moment. So,
No.
yep. So there's nothing to fear.
That's right. But people that you talk about meditation, and I work with people from alcoholic or dysfunctional homes, and they have a higher cortisol rate usually than most people. So they activate faster, probably because their amygdala has been touched for many times during their life. So it's hard for them to meditate. So what I teach them to do is do something like gardening, or do something like painting. I find painting is very relaxing to me, and I get a lot of conversation with my inner voice, because all you're doing is, it's like ironing used to be. I don't know if people can remember ironing. I used to love to iron because number one, it's beautiful when it's finished.
Yes.
And I just found it very very soothing. So they don't have to always just sit down and try to meditate, because a lot of people have tried that. I used to have a cartoon in the office, and there was an old monk and a young monk. And the old monk has his brow furrowed, and he goes, "Nothing is supposed to happen." And because they get so disappointed because, well, I'm not getting anything. Well,
right.
So do something quiet and work out in nature and take a walk.
Take a walk. Walk in nature is perfect.
Yes.
Walk in nature is perfect, because nature really, when you're out in nature is alive. The trees and everything is alive, and they're actually communicating with you. You may not realize what's happening, but when you're out in nature, I think walking in nature is perfect. For me, I actually enjoy cleaning.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I enjoy cleaning. So just cleaning the house is something that works for me. Yes.
So everybody's got their favorite.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. So, and that's what I say to people: find what works for you. If meditation doesn't work for you, there's all kind of, because there's active meditation, walking, even cleaning, whatever if you're doing something you enjoy doing, you're meditating.
Well, let me tell you a story. I was watching Oprah. She has a show on Sunday at 11 o'clock on OWN on TV.
Yes.
And so she was interviewing this gentleman who was a spiritual expert. And about 45 minutes into the show, she said to him, "How come I get good ideas in the shower?" And he said, "I don't know." And she said, "Well, people tell me it's because the hot water's hitting the back of my neck." And he said, "Okay." And I'm sitting in my family room saying, "It's your vagus nerve. The hot water is hitting your vagus nerve." Because we have spiritual parts in our physical body.
Yes.
And the vagus nerve, I believe, connects with the silver cord. Which in the Bible, if the silver cord is cut, that's when you die.
Exactly.
So when people leave their body for an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience, their soul is traveling up, going out the top chakra of their head, and they're leaving their body.
Right.
Just like, and the people that have near-death experiences, which is, they're in a car accident or they're on a operating table in a hospital, usually cardiac cases.
Yes.
And they leave their body, and they have a near-death experience, some of them, where they visit their loved ones who are deceased, and then they're told, "It's not your time, you have to go back."
Right.
But when they come back into their body, and all you have to do if you ever are out there flying around is think, "I want to go back in my body," and you're in.
You're back.
So because I had a client come in one time, and he's talking about relationships, and then he says to me, "I leave my body at night, and sometimes I'm afraid I won't get back in." Right?
Right.
So I'd never been taught about this in school. So I said, "Well, how do you usually get back in?" He says, "Well, I just think about it and I go back in." And I said, "Okay, well, keep doing that."
That works.
and then I investigated, and there is this place in Virginia, which the name escapes me at the moment, but anybody can email me if they want to. Anyway, where they teach you how to leave your body.
Okay.
Because the founder was doing that years and years ago on a Sunday.
Are you thinking about the Casey and Casey?
No, Edgar Casey is a good place.
Yes.
But it'll come to me maybe as we're talking.
Okay.
But anyway, Robert Monroe. It's the Monroe Institute.
Okay. I'm familiar with that too. Yes.
Okay, isn't it? It's great.
Yes.
So anyway, we got him to go there, and
Yes.
he really had a wonderful spiritual life after that because I listened to him. And I
Yes.
try to teach therapists and anybody who's a natural therapist, like in your neighborhood, you listen to everybody's problems,
Yes.
listen to what they're saying. And I had a spiritual experience, a couple years before that, so I knew he probably was leaving his body, even though I didn't know very much about it at the time.
Right.
So I just believed him; he wasn't lying to me. And so you just, try to find out about it if you need to, help somebody with a problem like that. But
Yes.
I try to teach other therapists about. In fact, tonight I'm doing a webinar
Okay.
on near-death experiences. So I do that for CEU.org, and
Okay.
people, therapists call in and they get 2 CEUs because we
Okay.
do it from 8 to 10 at night. And I'm in New Jersey, but people in California and Oregon and New York, they're all
Right.
getting CEUs by staying home and, just listening to my PowerPoint. So
Okay.
tonight's my first time on near-death experiences, so I'm really excited.
Awesome. Yeah,
Because
very
a lot of
good.
therapists don't know about that people do leave their bodies and come back and they have this wonderful experience, and they all see the light,
Yes.
and they say they felt so much love they want to go back.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so I don't know if you know, but 79% of people who have had near-death experiences get divorced,
I
and
didn't know that.
sometimes afterwards,
Hmm.
because their family members don't believe it.
Okay. I understand. I
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
such a different view of life.
Life.
They're more
Yes.
spiritual because they know what happens,
Yes.
and they felt the love of God and
Yes.
their loved ones, and
Yes.
they don't want to work so hard maybe, and they're not interested in material things.
As much. Yes. And also, I've had lots of guests on here that has had near-death experience, many, and many of them say that experience, that near-death experience or that out-of-body experience feels more real than this.
Yes.
Than this experience. Yes.
Because your soul is your real self,
Yes.
and your soul
Exactly.
is having that experience, right?
Yes. Exactly.
And then you come back into this body, and then you realize that you have a physical and a spiritual body.
Exactly. But you understand that what you are is that soul, is that essence, that divine light, and you're not just, the body is just, like I said, it's a vehicle. I think of it as a car.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
no different than my car. And I've had many cars in this lifetime, and we have many bodies. Life is eternal, and we select many bodies, And
Right.
so once we leave, and when people, first of all, and I've said this in the last few shows that I've done, I've never in my life have been afraid of death. I've never been afraid to die. Like I said, when I was very young, from the time I was very young, I followed my inner guidance, and sometimes people, I would be like, quote unquote, the black sheep of the family, because why aren't you more like your brother? I'm like, I'm me. Yeah, I didn't say that, couldn't say that, but I'm thinking that I'm
Yeah.
me. And I knew from birth that there was a greater reality than this experience. And so I never was afraid of death. So, but when people truly embrace who they truly are, you don't ever have that fear of dying. And many people that have near-death experiences, they never have that fear of dying.
They don't.
They're like, oh, yeah, I know it's nothing to die. Actually, it's nicer, kind of nicer. But we're here. I say we're here for a reason. I know that if we're still here, that we're our higher self, our soul, we're here for a specific and meaningful reason. And to find out what that reason is, some people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. But I say the only way, nobody can tell another person what their purpose is. Your purpose, you have to go within and ask, and when you're quiet or when you're doing something that you really enjoy, like painting or running or playing music, when you're in that really mindless state, doing something you really enjoy, tune in to why you're here. Because only your inner guidance, your soul, can tell you why you're here. Nobody else can tell you that. So
that's one of the things I talk about in my third book, The Psychology of the Soul and the Paranormal, is how do you develop a soul? And you develop it through your life perspective. So I had a mother that married an alcoholic. I always wondered why we stayed, because my mother was very smart and she worked. We could have left, but she didn't leave.
Right.
And in alcoholic families, people are, they have kids have an understanding of the alcoholic. Well, he drinks. I can see why he's the way he is. And I say he because there's more male alcoholics in this country than female. But
Right.
we don't know why she stays as kids,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so my job was to never be like my mother and stay, which
Right.
I didn't. Once I realized I was married to an alcoholic, I got divorced.
Right.
And then I didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, because I was a secretary and I could type 100 words a minute and do all this stuff. I thought I could get a job, but do I want to go back to college? Maybe I want to go back to college. So I went to our local college here in Red Bank, Brookdale Community, and they had a women's center.
Okay.
And they sat me in this room, and there were all pictures on the wall of women, which I'd never seen.
Okay.
Because they're usually pictures of men.
Men, exactly.
And and there's all these women around me, and they gave me this booklet, and I was supposed to stay for 2 hours and answer all these questions, which I did. And the first question was, if you had all the money and time in the world, what would you do?
That's
So
a
I
good
put,
question.
go to college.
Yes.
Because I really wanted to learn, and my father didn't believe in educating women. So then I went through all these questions, and I was very serious. And at the end of the story, it said, okay, go back to question number 1 and do it anyway.
Yes.
Because that was my sole purpose in coming here, was to become educated. And then I became a reverend in the interfaith ministry because I wanted to understand world religions.
Yes.
Because what were they fighting about? There's only one God.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I hope somebody can see that I didn't know I was developing my soul as I was learning all this.
Yes.
And then I took interest tests, and they said, well, you could be a therapist. First they said I could be a lawyer, and I said, I don't want to be a lawyer. So I want to be a therapist. So then I went to school and I took sales, psychology, and art, because those were the 3 things I came out highest in.
Right.
And then I got a degree in art therapy as a bachelor's, and then my professor said, well, now what are you going to do for a master's? And I said, a master's. And he said, well, you can't eat on this bachelor's. Now, see, so I didn't even know what I needed. So I came out, and there was an ad on his bulletin board, and it was a art therapy convention in Catskills, in the, one of the Catskills hotels.
Yes.
In the next month, and I thought, I'll go there and I'll ask those art therapists what kind of master's to get.
Right.
So I did it. At lunch, I asked them, and they said, you get a master's in social work.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay, what does a social worker do? So I came back and I bought a book on social work. I read half the book, and I called Rutgers because I had to commute. And I said, I'd like to apply for September. Now, this was in February. And they said, I'm sorry, but we just closed our applications for September.
Oh.
And I said, oh, okay. I said, could you send me the application anyway? Because I wanted to see what it was, right? What you had to do.
Right.
So anyway, all you had to do was write a paper on why you could be a social worker.
Okay.
So I thought I could write a paper. So I wrote a paper and sent it in anyway.
Okay.
And in June, I was accepted.
Okay. Very good.
So
Very
you
good.
see, you don't really have to listen.
You
when you come from an alcoholic and dysfunctional home, you don't really listen to adults anyway, because they never knew what they were talking about, because they were always fighting, right? So I didn't listen. I thought, well, let me just send it in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And Carl Jung believes that chance rules. So if you take a chance, you may get it.
Yes. 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 And you're exactly right. Follow your heart. And I love that question. That first question. If put everything aside, money, education, whatever, ask that question, what would you really want to do?
With your time.
With your time. And that is the answer. That is your soul, answering your question right there. All anybody has to do is go within and ask themselves that question, and it will. And I noticed that at first I was interested in journalism, and I don't even watch the news now.
Right.
When I first went to school, I got a degree in communications. I was interested in journalism, and then I got into computers, and I got interested in graphic design, and but I can see how everything I did led me to this.
Yes.
It's just everything I've learned. Like now I can create my own website. I'm able with my computer knowledge do everything for my show on my own. So it's just,
you see, it all worked out.
It all led me to right here. So everything I learned is coming into play, and I had no idea I would be doing this. But I know this is my passion. This is what I'm meant to do. Especially, we're 2020. I just feel is we're going to see this pandemic that we're going through is just the first of many, many, many changes, and they're all going to be positive. Not. I don't want people to think that, oh my God, the sky is falling in. No.
Right.
It's just it's a birthing process we're going through, because it has to be a breakdown of the old so we can rebuild anew.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that's where we are in our history as humanity. It's time for us to wake up, remember who we are, and live a higher consciousness, live from our higher consciousness, and not, the same old is not getting us anywhere. War after war, all of this is not getting us anywhere. So
this higher consciousness that you talk about is interesting, because I think about that small voice, that people have, and sometimes they don't listen to it.
Yes.
I was in the city one weekend and went to a conference. So I had all my best clothes and my jewelry, and I had a computer. I had a computer before most therapists had one. And so I had all this stuff in the car, and I was with a friend, and we were in New York, and we went down to Greenwich Village. We were going to have lunch. So we parked the car in the street, and I get this feeling, and I'm getting it now. I'm getting goosebumps. And the feeling said, this car is going to be robbed.
Wow.
So I said to my friend, I don't think we should stay for lunch. Let's just go home to New Jersey. We'll eat there.
Okay.
And she said, why not? We just got a parking space. Look, it's a sign. And, we can go, and we've had a good weekend. Let's just have a nice lunch. So I did.
Okay.
So when we got back to New Jersey, the trunk was empty. All my stuff was gone. And I thought to myself, that voice should have been louder. And then I thought to myself, no, you needed to listen more.
Yes,
right?
yes. You should have fought. Right. We get that. Our inner voice speaks to us all the time.
It does.
I think 90% of the time we ignore it. We let someone talk us out of it. Because you could have said, well, to your friend, you could have said, I hear you, but you know what? I have this intuition that we should go to Jersey.
Right.
There's good restaurants in Jersey. I'm born and raised in Jersey. So, okay.
But you see, I had to have that loss in order to listen to the voice better.
Exactly.
See?
Exactly.
Because I didn't believe it until that time. Now, there's probably other times when I didn't listen to the voice either, but that time made an impression because I lost all my best stuff.
Yes.
See?
Yes. So it was a very, very good learning lesson that you don't want to go through again.
That's right.
You'll listen to that.
That's consciousness, that there's always this energy around you that is trying to show you where to go and what to do.
Yes.
And so you need to be quiet in some way. If it isn't meditation, then listen to music. Now, music really soothes the vagus nerve.
Yes.
And singing and humming.
Yes.
It's the vibration of that nerve in your body.
Yes.
And that nerve touches every organ we have.
Yes. Okay. And also, when you talk about vibration, because I do listen to a lot of high vibration frequency music just to soothe while I'm cleaning. I always have something, when I don't have to focus on typing or writing or anything like that. I always have something that is of high vibration, a music or a tone, a high vibration tone in the background. Just keeping me, because it is truly about vibration. When you understand that everything is energy and it vibrates at a certain frequency, and you want to be at that higher frequency, because that's how we actually experience what we're going to experience is from that frequency, our core frequency. So it's so important. So when you said that, when you shared the story about only one time, I have not been in New York many times, but when I was living in New York and I was dating a gentleman, and I was going to school in New York. I was going to the Center for Media Arts for 1 year. I got a degree in audio engineering. And I was dating a guy, and I told him, meet me in the city and we'll have dinner. And it was his birthday. So I bought him this beautiful cashmere sweater, and I had wrapped it very nice and put it in the trunk. So when we came out from the restaurant, of course, the beautiful cashmere sweater was gone. You know? So, yeah, so that's that. So I understand that, and that was in the mid to late 80s that happened. So
Right.
yes, but I understand. I didn't get that instinct. It was a French restaurant we went to, a really nice French restaurant, and I just felt, oh, so excited to go and then give him his sweater. And well, I gave him dinner
And your company.
and my company. Yes, 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 yes. But but that is so true. Our inner voice, that's why I say when we get into a state where we're not are listening to the monkey mind, is what I say. When that
Yes.
monkey mind is just going blah 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 blah, quiet it. Find whatever you can do, like you painting, me cleaning,
Right.
walking in nature, just whatever, gardening, whatever a person can do to quiet that monkey mind and listen to that inner voice, because that inner voice is always, always, always talking to us. We're just not always listening. That's the thing.
Another way that we can get that is through meaningful coincidences.
Okay.
So things that happen to you, and Carl Jung calls that synchronicity. So
Yes.
a synchronicity. He had a famous case with a woman who was coming to him for about 1.5 years, and he didn't think she was moving very well. But we just take notes. And so he was there on a June day, and she was all excited because she had this dream about this black bug.
Mm-hmm.
So she was starting to explain the black bug to him, and it was June, so he stood up. It was hot. He opened the window to let some air in, and this black bug flies in the window and lands on the carpet.
Right.
And she said, that's the bug in my dream. That's the bug. And she gets all excited, and he goes, really? And he looks at it. Now, the bug is alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scarab beetle, and it's from Egypt.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
that is a meaningful coincidence. Right?
My goodness.
And
Yeah.
after that, because what was inside of her last night came outside of her today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not all going to have a scarab meaningful coincidence, but
Right.
something can happen, like you lose your job and you go to the post office at 9 in the morning when you're usually not there because you're working, and you meet somebody from second grade who has a company and he gives you a job.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So those kinds of coincidences, which in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a wonderful program for anybody who wants to stop drinking,
yes.
says it's God speaking to you.
Yes.
Those meaningful coincidences.
Very
So that's
true.
another way to develop your soul. And sometimes you get a message from a truck driving by, and it says a statement or a song that comes on
Yes.
radio. I had a gentleman, he was a Jewish guy, just culturally. He was not religious, but
Mm-hmm.
so I would, every once in a while, I'd sprinkle some spirituality into our sessions. And
Right.
so after about 1 year, he comes in on a Saturday, and he's supposed to be seeing me with his wife, and his wife's not with him. So I said, what happened? Well, we had a fight, so she's not coming. But he said, you know what? It was a little late. So he said, something happened in the car, and he said, you're going to love this. I said, really, what? He goes, well, he said, we had this fight, and I left, and I'm thinking, I drive to New York City every day. I go to work. I make all this money. I give her a house and that she loves, and I've just had the kitchen done over. I do all this stuff.
Right.
And all we do is fight. So what is the problem, he says.
Right.
Now, he doesn't really see God, right?
Right.
He says, the song came on the radio,
Yes.
and it was, all you need is love.
Mm.
And I guess it's a Beatles song.
Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
you would know. I don't know.
Yes.
So anyway, he said, and I realized that was my message for the day. And I said, very good.
Yes. This is so true.
So that was a meaningful coincidence, see?
Yes.
But
yes.
he wouldn't have picked that up if I hadn't been, every once in a while I just gave him a story, and
Yes.
and he wanted to be more spiritual, but he just didn't know how.
Right, right. But that's so true. And I believe many of the Beatles songs are inspirational, like All You Need Is Love and Imagination. I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, they were very inspired, the Beatles.
Yes.
I mean, very inspired music. And yes, it's it's our loved ones, it's our higher self, it's our spirit team, because we have a spirit team of guides, we have angels. We're always surrounded, and they're always trying to get messages to us. And in truth, every moment is synchronistic. We just have to see the synchronicity in that moment.
Yes.
So yes.
It has to hit you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And wake you up.
Yes.
And that's what they talk about, these awakening times. Well, what does that mean? Well, just pay attention.
Exactly. And we all awaken differently. For me, my big awakening moment was from science. That's why I talk a lot about science. Yes, it was quantum physics. I had studied spirituality, metaphysics, all through my teens, all through my 20s, all through my 30s. It was somewhere in my early 40s where I watched What the Bleep.
Oh, I love What's the Bleep.
What the Bleep, a documentary about quantum physics. And I watched but there was one sentence. Lynn McTaggart said, the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness, that we think everything is separate. That's the biggest problem in the world today. And when she said that, something woke up inside of me to say, yes. It wasn't an intellectual awakening.
No.
It was a heart and soul awakening.
It was a gut reaction.
Yes. And I knew that statement was true. And I knew that what would solve all of humanity's problems is understanding that we are all one, that we are all connected. That would solve all of our problems. And then after my son's transition, so that was 2007, is when I had that awakening, but my son transitioned in 2014, 7 years later. But 6 months after my son's transition, it was like Spirit says, you got to start doing what you came here to do. And that is to inspire. And I use the word inspire the world to awaken, because I can't really I can't shake somebody awake. I can inspire them to go within and tap into that truth within all of us, and then have their awakening. Because that awakening comes from within.
Yeah, it really does.
Yes. So
that What's the Bleep movie? That was a great movie.
Yes.
I was running spirituality groups at that time, and we only could see it in certain parts of the country.
Okay.
And so outside of Princeton was where they were filming this. So we all went and we all watched it, our spirituality group. So there were 8 or 9 of us, and it was just wonderful because we had been studying all of that stuff. And Dr. Emoto, I don't know if he's a doctor, but he's Japanese.
Yeah, no, he is a doctor. Dr.
Is
Emoto.
he?
Yes.
Okay. And he wrote about the water crystals.
Yes.
And so, holy water is just water that's been blessed.
Blessed, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So anyway, he believed that this water, he said that when water froze, it became a crystal for I think it's only 60 seconds. And he said that every water crystal would be like every snowflake, and each one would be different.
Yes.
And he wanted to prove that.
Yes.
So he got, and nobody cared. Right? So his wife saved some money. She got him a walk-in refrigerator and these petri dishes. And so then he got all this different water from around the world.
Yes.
And he froze the different water. So in his book, Molecules of Emotion, I think it's called. No, it isn't called that. Well, it's EMOTO if you want to look it up. Anyway.
Right.
And so all the different waters from the different countries, and he has it from New York City and Washington, D.C. and Philippine Islands, and they all, the crystals look different. Right? And so then he had Buddhist priests come and pray over the water. And then that water looked different.
Yes.
And then he had water they ignored.
Yes.
Now that water looked terrible.
Right.
And I showed that in when I was doing groups for marital couples.
Yes.
And I showed them, when you ignore somebody, his whole point was we're like 90, 86, 90% water.
We're 75 to 80% water. Is what we are. And he would actually write the words like in Japanese, I hate you, on the vial, on the petri dish, or I love you. And he found that the most beautiful crystals were from I love you and thank you.
Love and gratitude.
Love and gratitude was the most beautiful crystals. Yes.
So that's what he did at the end, right? So I tell my clients, so you can write that. You can write
Yes.
love, you can
Yes.
write prosperity, anything, and put your water bottle on it
Well,
overnight.
now I'm grabbing this now. Normally, see how I don't have the store-bought
Yeah,
label on it?
right.
Normally, I write. I take the store-bought water, like always buy spring water. I
Okay.
take the label off, and I will put a label. It just happens I don't have it on this particular one, but I will put a label that says I love you, thank you, I love you. On
Yeah.
all my water, I do, because it raises, what it does is raises the vibration of the water. And like you said, we are 90, I'm not 90, I think it's 75 to 80% water.
Yeah, I'm not sure
And,
what it is.
and so even I want to get a t-shirt made up, because just like my body had, like we put a label on the water, I want to put a label on my body. I love you and thank you. Thank you, I love you. T-shirts made up just to wear that, because I am water. I'm mostly water. So yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
we all know that when we go for a walk on the beach, we all feel calmer.
Yes, yes,
right?
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
that's so that's another way that scientifically, but you can just learn from your gut feel
Yes.
about having some drinking water that could have a vibration that you need.
Yes, 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 very true. And even just saying thank you over your food, because the food is made up of, everything has life, and that life, if we thank the food for nourishing our body. Just
Yeah.
saying thank you and I love you to your food before you eat, you're raising the vibration of the food. It's all about vibration. Yeah, I love Dr. Emoto's work. He just recently, not too long ago, within a year or two, passed away.
Oh, did he?
Yes, I'm
He's not
very
with us
familiar
anymore.
with Dr. Emoto. Yes, yes, yes. But
Because he
his
had
work,
those water cards too, where you could
yes,
see all the different types of
yes,
water, and when the children sang over it, it was a wonderful
yes.
book.
Yes, yes, yes. His work is amazing, and his work has really proven the power of our words and the power of our intentions.
Yes.
But even our words have power. So when
Right.
you say words like "I hate you," that has energy, that has power, and that does something. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
I was talking to a parent today, and she was feeling guilty about how she hadn't done something right with her kids. And I said, I've read that when you go to heaven, if your intent was to be good and you did something wrong, that's not held against you, because
right,
your intent was to do good.
yes,
And so I want you to know, as a parent, your intent has always been to do good.
yes.
And this child has DNA from other people you don't even know, as your husband's DNA, and
Right,
you're sitting there like you are the only person that has affected this child's life.
right.
And so if your intention has been and is to be a good parent, I want you to pay attention to that, because that is what is important.
Yes, very true.
And so intention really is. And then guilt is only to be felt, I believe, for the moment that we realize we did something wrong.
Exactly,
And then we fix it, and we don't do that wrong again.
exactly.
But we don't
Hold on to it.
yes, obsess over that for years and years and years,
Yes.
because that's self-punishment.
Yes. And that's you repeating the act over and over. It's like,
Yes.
okay, I made a mistake. I don't want to make that mistake again. Let me apologize. Let me do what I can do to correct that mistake. But the guilt is just carrying that mistake with you forever, for
I know.
eternity. It's like, no, you forgive. And forgiveness, like we were talking about, love starts with loving yourself. Forgiveness starts with forgiving yourself. You forgive yourself, so you have forgiveness to give to others.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to write. I always tell them, write a guilt list, and maybe you want to put it in a book. It's so long. But all these things that you feel guilty about, and then let's talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that we have to get rid of if we're going to develop a positive consciousness.
Yes, yes, we have to release that. It's like you were saying, our cells have memory. It's cellular memory, and we want to release that cellular memory so we can raise our consciousness. So that, yes, and raise our vibration and raise our consciousness. They go hand in hand, but we do have to release all that cellular memory to do that. Yes. Yep.
And that's what we do in therapy. We just talk about these things that normally you don't talk about.
Yes.
And I find people with obsessive compulsive disorder, when they come in, they really don't like to talk about what they obsess over because it's going to make it worse. No.
Okay.
If you talk about what you obsess over, it makes it go away.
Mm-hmm.
Because we bring it to the light,
Shine
and we pull it apart.
You were
right?
just reading my mind. We shine a light on it. We shine a light on it. When you shine a light on something, it emerges and transforms. That's why you don't push it away. You don't try to pretend it doesn't exist. You shine a light on it, and it transforms.
Right.
The
Right.
only way to shine the light of it on it. You were reading my mind. Yes, very, very true. Now, please, Karen, share with our listeners how they can find you and how they can get a hold of your books, especially the one, I love this one for my grandson. I had this for my grandson. So please share with our listeners how they can find you.
Okay, well, you can find me on Amazon for the books, and there's 3 of them there. Grandma, What is a Soul? You're Not Finished Yet, and The Psychology of the Soul and the Paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
And paranormal talks about mediumship and going to mediums or psychics. And
Yes.
when people are in chronic grief, I strongly suggest they go to a medium, and I have a list of mediums
Okay.
that I trust. And then they find that their loved one is still there,
Yes.
and the chronic grief goes away. It's wonderful.
Yes.
And then you can always email me at Karen, which is Karen, at Karen Herrick, HERRICK.com.
Okay.
And I will answer emails and any questions that you might have. So the books can be ordered by Amazon. We do have Psychology and the Soul at the office, and the phone number here is 732-530-8513, and we're selling that book for $25. They're selling it on Amazon for $35. So for a while you'll get a deal if you want me to mail that to you.
Yes.
And you can get it all through Amazon, and you could read the reviews of the book, because many people have reviewed them, and you can see if they would be helpful to you. And the first one is about alcoholism. What is an alcoholic? What is social drinking? And living in an alcoholic home, the roles that children take on, and then how we can help those roles as we get to be an adult, because we don't want to stay stuck in those roles that our family has taught us. And that's part of developing your soul also.
Yes, exactly. And when you were saying about mediumship, I knew, well, see, I was blessed to know when my son transitioned that he wasn't gone. But I wanted a mediumship reading, but I wasn't going to go looking for a medium. And so I started this show, didn't know at that time when my son transitioned, I would start this show. But in doing the show, I've had mediums on, and I was recommended, I don't know if you're aware of Suzanne Giesman.
Yeah, she's good.
She's excellent. So she was my guest. And
nice.
Yes. After I had her as my guest, she gifted me a reading on my son's birthday. And it was so amazing that we actually have my son's voice on tape from that reading.
That's wonderful.
It's amazing. Yes.
And more people need to know about that.
Yes.
How old was your son when he transitioned?
He was 29. He was 29.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss, but I really like what's happened since.
Yes, well, I know he's not gone. And I was blessed to know that at the time he was leaving, he was just leaving his body. He wasn't going anywhere. And it was a soul plan that he and I made. I was reading Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift by Robert Schwartz, the last month of his life while he was on life support.
Beautiful.
And I knew. So I actually was at peace when he transitioned. So
that's beautiful.
Yes.
That's a lesson that really, I'm so glad that you're doing the work you're doing.
Thank you. I feel, like I said, I couldn't do anything else because it's just, my soul is saying this is what you must do, and I love what I'm doing. I love doing the show. Now I'm actually doing talking. I do public speaking at local places like Unity churches and UU churches, Unitarian Universalist churches, spiritual centers, local spiritual centers. So now I'm actually stepping out and doing more public speaking, which is great.
Beautiful.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being my guest. I have to thank Sonia for introducing us. She's amazing. That's actually how I met Sonia, was through, well, not necessarily through Suzanne, but through another friend of mine's. But that whole electronic voice phenomena where my
Yes.
son came through,
Yes.
that's how I got in touch with Sonia. And my son has come to Sonia many times. I have images of my son from Sonia, like at least 8 to 10
So
images.
most people don't know, you just would Google EVP,
Yes.
which is electronic voice phenomena, if you want to find out more about that.
Yes. Yes, very true. I've done a couple of shows on that. I've had the Soul Phone Foundation on.
Okay.
I've had AR Afterlife Research Institute on. I've had a lot of shows that deal with communicating with our loved ones via electronic means.
Yes.
So I truly believe that we are very close to having a device in our hand that we can actually use to communicate with our loved ones. I believe that's within the next 10 years, honestly.
Yeah, Gary Schwartz is doing that.
Yes, Gary
From
was
Arizona.
Yes, Gary was on my show.
The
Also,
Soul
Mark.
Phone.
Yes, Mark Pitstick, who's in partnership with Gary, and Craig Hogan from
Yes.
AREI. So, and Sherry Pearl, Sonia Rinaldi. I've had them all on because I really believe that once we're able to communicate, and I believe it's coming, just like, I mean, if you think about 1900s, who would believe in the 1900s that we're walking around with a phone that
Right.
we can connect, and it's not even just a phone, it's a computer in our hand.
That's
And
right.
we're walking around with a computer in our hand, 100 years later. They would not believe it. But I believe within 10 years, we will be able to communicate with our loved ones by technology, which is great.
And until that, they can go to mediums.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Trusted ones, like Suzanne Giesman. Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been amazing, and you're not far. So maybe one day I'll get to Jersey and we can actually have lunch. And we won't eat in New York.
We will not. And we'll have an empty trunk.
Yes. Yes.
I would love to do that. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Have a great day.
You too. Hi, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Karen. Remember, she is the author of Grandma, What is a Soul? And it's a children's book, which I think it's great to have conversations with children about what happens after we transition from this life. I think it's wonderful to have those conversations with our children and our grandchildren. Also, I wanted to mention on my website, I am offering a free mentoring session. For anyone interested, all you have to do is go to my website. It is awake2onenessradio.org. And you can just email me, let me know you're interested in a free mentoring session. I also am going to be hosting Zoom gatherings, Zoom meetings again, on Thursdays, the fourth Thursdays of the month. So the next meeting will be April 23rd, Thursday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested, you can just go to my website and let me know that you're interested to be a part of that group session. Also on my website, you can find free online events. You can just click on that tab and it will show you a list of the current free online events. Right now there are 6, but it changes weekly, so check it out. And also I'm asking if you are inspired to pledge $1 or $5 a month towards the support of the show. It's completely nonprofit. I do everything from my heart, and it is my passion. I will continue to do it, but a little financial support could be helpful. Okay, thank you. I appreciate all of you. Namaste. Have a wonderful weekend. Namaste.